existential crisis to try to figure out what's the meaning of life. There doesn't seem to be any meaning. For me, at least, the religious texts, and I read all of them that I get my hands on, did not seem convincing. So then I'm like, okay. Then I started reading the philosophers. Be careful of reading German philosophers as a teenager. It's definitely not going to help with your depression. So reading Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, I'm like, as an adult, it's much more manageable. But as a kid, you're like, whoa. So then I was like, man, I'm just struggling to find meaning in life here. And then I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and basically what Douglas Adams was saying is that we don't really know what the right questions are to ask. The question is not what's the meaning of life. In the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Earth, it turns out, is a big computer and its goal is to answer the question, what's the meaning of life? And Earth comes up with the answer 42. They come to the conclusion that no, the real problem is trying to formulate the question. So, and to really have the right question, you need a much bigger computer than Earth. And so, maybe one way of characterizing this would be to say, the universe is the answer. What is the question? And the more, or what are the questions? The more we can expand the scope and scale of consciousness, the better we can understand what questions to ask about the answer that is the universe. And the more we can expand consciousness, become a multi-planet species, ultimately a multicellular species, we have a chance of figuring out what the hell's going on. And so, and this is why I think we should have more humans and more digital, both biological and digital consciousness, and why we should become a multi-planet species and a multicellular species, is so that we can understand the nature of the universe. And then, in order for that to occur, then we have to make sure that things are good on Earth. We don't want Earth to disappear. So sustainable energy is important for ensuring the long-term viability of Earth. And making life multiplanetary is important for extending consciousness. And ultimately we want to go and visit other star systems to see if there are alien civilizations there that perhaps still exist or perhaps died out millions of years ago. The extraordinarily short, people I think don't realize just how short civilization, so the first writings were only about 5,000 years ago. So I don't know what happened around 5,000 years ago, but for whatever reason, there's not really writings before that. So there's not some coherent symbolic representation before about 5,000, maybe 5,500 years ago. So you can call, if you date civilization from the point at which we had writing, it's only 5,000 years old. Earth has been around for, 4.5 billion years, 5 billion-ish. The universe has been around for 13.8 billion years. There were shellfish, basically 500 million years ago. So basically, what I'm saying is civilization has existed for an instant, from a sort of a galactic timescale frame of reference. Civilization at 5,000 years is basically a flash in the pan. So the history of civilizations, which I encourage people to read, the history of civilizations. In fact, there's literally a book called The Story of Civilization. It's quite good. And there's been the rise and fall of many civilizations over the last 5,000 years. And if you look at, say, the ancient Egyptian civilization, which is one of the first writings, not the first, but close to the first. They built these incredible pyramids and had this sophisticated writing system. And then the people living in the area, past a certain point, I don't know, maybe around 1,500 years ago, the last person who could read hieroglyphics died. I think so, probably 1,500 to almost 2,000 years ago. And well before that, the last people who could build pyramids died. And then basically people were living next to these structures with that just didn't know where they came from, and with funny symbols written on them. And it took like Napoleon invading Egypt and bringing a bunch of scholars with him, and the Rosetta Stone, but much more than the Rosetta Stone, ultimately to decipher hieroglyphics. It's quite a difficult thing to decipher. So I'm just saying, like, that's a civilization that had a really good run. The ancient Egyptians had like a 2,500 year run-ish. That's a very long time. Like 10 times longer than the United States has been a country. So, but still they died out. The ancient Sumerians died out. They were arguably the first, like from an archaeological standpoint, the first evidence of writing is the ancient Sumerian. They even found like school books and stuff, like clay school books with like teachers' corrections and stuff. So it's just like basically civilization has existed for a split second is really what it amounts to. So I think it's very important that we become a multi-planet species while we can, and before technology potentially subsides below the level where it's possible. One of the possible scenarios, and I think possibly even a probable scenario, is that our tech level actually drops, just like the ancient Egyptians, just like every civilization, which has gone through, has gone sort of on a sine wave, but ultimately a downward sloping sine wave. So, just like the Egyptians living in Egypt forgot how to build pyramids and read hieroglyphics, we may forget how to build spaceships. And so we should build the spaceships and make life multiplanetary while it is possible. And if there were to be a World War III, what will be left after that? Will there even be, will there be, who's to say what technology would be left after a World War III situation? Archaeologists are really trying hard to find anything interesting. So if you found evidence of an advanced alien civilization, you'd be like the number one hero in the entire archaeological profession. It's like they're trying very hard to find these things. We've not found anything. So, and people sometimes ask me, have I seen evidence of aliens? I'm like, I have not. And frankly, if I had seen evidence of aliens, I'd be like, hey guys, we found evidence of aliens. Everyone give SpaceX lots more money because we need to improve our rocket technology. Otherwise, these aliens are going to get us. If the DoD had evidence of aliens, immediately trot them out and say, danger, aliens, give us more money. Yeah, and everybody like, absolutely. These aliens may not be friendly. So the best to my knowledge, there's no evidence of aliens. But anyway, going back to the philosophy part, it's like if you accept as a proposition that we don't really understand the meaning of life, and we wish to understand the meaning of life, then in order to understand the meaning of life, we should expand consciousness such that we can ask better questions, learn more, expand beyond the solar system, ensure that life on Earth is good collectively for civilization, and then we can be less dumb about the nature of the universe, and maybe we can answer some questions about where this all came from and where it's going. I think that's a sound philosophy. It's the least unsound philosophy I can think of.